Welcome to Own It, the podcast where we talk to real estate thought leaders about embracing your strengths, taking your career to new heights, and owning your future.
I'm Hillary Saunders, Chief Broker Officer, co-founder of Side, along with my very studious co-host.
Okay, sure. Well, actually, I'm studying for my New York exam.
Exactly,
So, yeah.
exactly. Spencer Kroll, thank you again
Thank
for
you.
being my magnificent
Thank you.
studious
Thank you
co-host.
for having me, and my parole officer thanks you for having me because he knows where I am at this point.
Welcome. Well, joined today by the lovely Nneka Jenkins. Hello. I don't know where. Okay, no, I do know where to start with her
Pleasure
because
to be
she
here.
is the founder of Onyx Wealth Realty in San Jose, all of Silicon Valley. You've built up Onyx from just yourself to now a massively productive team of how many agents?
We have about 8 full-time agents.
It's amazing. And you have how many children?
We have 6 kids.
And you're doing this all.
None of them are my agents.
I was gonna say, I was about to say, like, well, of course, yeah.
No. But you're doing this all as mompreneur, fashionista, wonderful tea. I love her because she loves tea and I love tea.
I love tea. I love tea too. Yeah.
Thank you.
So you have an entire online presence that is all about tea, which we'll get to in a hot second. But tell us a little bit of why you wanted to build Onyx Wealth Realty.
So everyone thinks, so one of my kids' names is Onyx, and everyone thinks that my business was named after her, and it wasn't.
She's going to have a rude awakening.
Yeah, we're going to let her think that for a little bit. But no, after our third kid, I saw the name on the rims of my husband's car. It just said Onyx right there. And just something about it just struck with me. They were really nice rims, whatever. And, just something about it always stuck with me. And then after my cousin died, I saw the name in Las Vegas. And again, I took a picture with it. And I've just always, something about it just really stood out to me that like, it's going to be something for me. It meant something. Every time I saw it or spoke about it, it just really touched me. And, but I never really had the confidence to make it into something. So when the opportunity came about for me to, have this be my firm, I literally said to them, I'm like, I get your whole marketing process of figuring out names. I already have my name. Like it's Onyx. Like it's just my name. So the wealth piece of it was because it's very important for me in my own journey and just to help others, to help them build generational wealth. Right. So it just fit well. So Onyx Wealth Realty.
You know what's amazing is when the name. I mean, you were passionate about the name before, so
for at least 5 years.
Yeah, and that can really lead you into something and what is worthy of the name Onyx. I think, right? Because you have to succeed now.
Well, and
of
when you add team members, right? Like they have to fit something
Totally.
within your created baby. This is almost like your 7th baby. I remember. So Nneka called me. I think you just found out you were pregnant with your
like number 5, I think.
Yeah, you called me and you were like, Hillary, I need to tell you, I just found out I'm pregnant. I have so many deals going. I don't know what to do. Like I just need a moment of clarity. I need a moment of zen. And I was like, it's okay. You've got this. This is nothing new. Like, you know exactly what you're doing. Let's build out your team so that way you can, when you have the baby, take a break. Yeah. Do what you need to do. Yeah. And you've been able to do that. Like,
I literally remember where I was when I had that conversation with you. I pulled over. It was a couple houses ago, and I pulled over on the side of the road because I was freaking out. Yeah. Not that I didn't, like you said, I'd been there before, but I don't know, just something about every kid. You just feel like, oh my gosh. And then I ended up selling more pregnant than not. So,
which is totally happens.
It happens all the time.
Don't go and get pregnant, Spencer. But this is really what happens is either when you're pregnant, either your business just blows up, you sell more houses, you get more clients, or you have some kind of epiphany to go start a company at that time in your life and you crush it. I don't know what it is.
It's like you birthed something before, because for me, I was literally just going everywhere, waddling, literally. I was on bed rest for half of my pregnancies by like month 4 or 5, but I really wasn't in the bed. They said I was in bed rest.
We won't tell.
We won't tell. But it feels like you're like birthing something, birthing an idea, birthing whatever before I even birthed my child. And it was like that for every pregnancy. And you mentioned, as team members come on, they've kind of got to buy into that. And that's really true, because one thing that's always been important to me is like walk the walk, talk the talk. And if you're going to be a real estate agent, a broker, whatever, you got to own your own home. So because, sometimes we have newer agents or whatever, and it's really hard to buy in the Bay Area. So it's really important to me. And I think 3 of my agents in the past 2-3 years have bought their first home. And so then it's like, okay, great. Don't get too comfortable. When are we getting the investment property, right? Because while we're living here and paying as much as it costs to live here, we might as well benefit from the appreciation gain, right? So it's been super important to me that we're not only just advising our clients on how to build wealth in whatever capacity that is for them, because everyone's road is so different, but it was important that they live it and do the same thing. And they have. It's cool. And then a couple of my, one of them actually recently, Laura Burke, had a baby, and she would tell everybody like, listen, I'm just trying to do as much real estate as Nneka did pregnant, because it's her first kid, and she's killing it. She really is. She took her break, whatever she needed, but she has the support with with real estate experts, with Onyx Wealth Realty. She has the support around her to be able to do what she needs to do and not feel like she has to like take a 6-month break or something.
It's funny. I think we're only like maybe 3 minutes into the podcast. Talking to you, I feel like, okay, I'm going to run out and run a marathon. Because everything, your energy is absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
And wow, like I feel like the failure my parents think I am.
You're not.
No. But all right. So what were you doing before real estate?
I was in corporate. I was, and I loved I cried, and I gave them like 6 weeks notice. I worked for Stryker and then a smaller company that was a vendor to Stryker called Versatile Power. And I was in production, like, supporting the sales and production team. And
Stryker makes, I know the name.
Like endoscopy sales, so they're medical devices.
Right, okay. Which your brother was also doing, I think, for a while.
No, he was doing sales, but no, not at Stryker.
Not at Stryker. Okay. So, and then so you decided, I think I'll go into real estate now. I mean, how did that happen?
Accident. Actually, my husband's family, so he was born in San Francisco. He's from, a lot of his family's from here, but originally they're Creole and they're from like Louisiana, East Texas, all that. And they had property. And when I kind of was always the person that always had side hustles. I, as you can tell, I had a lot of energy then, and I still do.
Oh, yes.
So I was never like just doing one thing. And we were born in Africa, and coming here, it was just a huge wake-up call because we lived a lot differently in Africa. And then when we came here, my mom was a single parent and all that stuff. So I just always naturally, like, multiple sources of income. What am I doing here to stay afloat, right? So his family had real estate, and they would ask for help. And I don't even remember how it just started, but I was like, I could help you with that, right? Just, can you do this at this property or whatever? So it became this thing. And then I remember my husband, we weren't married yet, and he would say to me, you're spending way too much time helping my family. So either you make money from it, again, his family, not mine.
Right, yeah.
Either you make money from it or you can't do it anymore. And he actually went behind my back and said that to his mom and my aunt and his aunt. And they were 2 of the people that I would help with certain things. Wow. So I literally said, okay, well, I'm not going to stop doing it because I love helping people. So I made a business out of it, would make like an invoice of the things I would do. So long story short, I did that. And then I started researching, this is years ago. I started researching, I'm like, okay, this whole property management thing, what does that mean if I get my license, right? And I realized you had to have your property management, you have to have your real estate, whatever it is. You need, yeah. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess I got to do that. So I got my real estate license just so I could do property management consulting. Had no intentions of doing real estate. I didn't even know what it really meant. So I get my license. One of the Keller Williams beginning classes, there was 2 of us in the class only, and the girl said something about relocation tours. And I was like, what does that mean? And all she had to do was say, oh yeah, you make $400 or $500 a tour, and you tour these people that are coming into the area. That's all she had to say. I was like, where do I sign up? So I did that, and I created a business around that. Again, I'm newly licensed. Created a business around that. But right when I got my license, one of my first requisitions was somebody who wanted to buy. So they bought an $800,000 condo with me in Redwood City. And I was like, oh, I guess I could do real estate, and I don't have to just do property management.
Yeah, $20,000 check's a lot different than a $500 check, right? Yeah.
But it took me 2 years, and a lot of brokers asking me to, hey, go full time. I did 6 deals my first part-time year, 10 my second part-time year, to convince me the grass is great. You could do other things. All
right. So first off, I'm assuming you could. I mean, you can do anything. Okay. I think we've established that at this point. So you started selling real estate. What made you decide to then become you? Right? I mean, you're still when did you realize that you were kind of your own brand or your own?
You have a great mentor.
Yes, I do. I think
he's wonderful.
Who is your mentor?
Brett Jennings.
Oh, well, okay. There you go.
To answer that directly, I think I'm still figuring that out. I know it doesn't seem that way, but I struggle with that a little bit. But he literally was he emailed me and I just assumed it was like a, email he sent to a lot of people, which probably was. And it took me like 9 months to respond to him. And when I responded to him and I met him the first time in person, I had done like some open houses for him through one of his employees, Justin Dahl, and knew nothing about him. And when I met him the first time, he just kind of was like, well, you need to quit your job. If we're going to do this, you need to quit your job. And I was like, I have a lot of bills. And at that time, 3 kids, I literally had my kid in a car seat right next to us for like the 3rd meeting or something. And I was like, anyone that asked me to quit my job doesn't understand my life and, whatever. And I just, whatever. Took 3 meetings. And the last one, he's like, well, if you don't believe in yourself, I'm not going to. So when are you going to believe in yourself? And my husband was right there with me. And I went home. And literally within a week, I quit my job. So I think I borrowed his confidence in me and I used it.
That's great.
Like literally, and I still do sometimes, like we're very close and I still do. But for most of my adult life, I've borrowed it and kind of, put it on like a uniform, like armor. And then until I really gain the confidence to do it my way, like you're saying, how'd you get the confidence to be you? I'm just borrowing it.
So Brett said something in a podcast from Meredith Fogel. It's called So You Want to Be a Real Estate Agent. This is season 4. She's interviewing a bunch of industry experts, veterans, leaders, whatever you want to call them, titans. Brett said something. He said that because he has a passion for coaching, he said that he wanted to get so many people, and he mentioned a number, to $1 million GCI. And he shot for like 3. And his first year, he got like 6 or something crazy. And I know you have a super big passion about getting wealth building. Do you have any goals that are similar, that you want to get so many people to own their home or invest in secondary real estate? Because I know your backstory and I want to get to it in a hot second. But right now, you seem to encourage people to walk the walk, right? Be a homeowner. Okay, when are you going to invest in your first investment property? Do you have anything like fire in your belly that you want to help people like that?
Yeah, I tell more people not to sell their property than to sell it. I truly do. And that's because, I have to sleep at night. And I feel like there are some situations where they're just scared of being a landlord or scared of whatever that means, or don't have the tools or the resources to understand what it means to actually keep the property, but still buy the trade up property, right? So for me, I guess the fire in my belly would be just in situations where people are like, I've saved two clients in particular out of foreclosure, like literally on the brinks of foreclosure for their property. And, we poured some money into it, fixed it up, and got them way more than if they would have just given it away, right? But it's important for me that the resources that I didn't know that I didn't even have, right? And then as I've, gotten better and better in this industry, realized like, gosh, it's so easy to just, you don't know what you don't know. And so when I'm surrounded around people that are not afraid, like you mentioned, Brett Jennings, right? He was not afraid of my success. So he's poured into me in that. And he's shown me, different ways of wealth building or whatever the case is. So it's important to me that I show other people that,
right? Because
too many instances I see where people lose that property or make the wrong decision. And then years later, when they know better and they can do better, they lost that opportunity to hold on to it, right? Because they didn't have the resources, or they didn't have the knowledge or information or trusted professionals to help them.
That's the thing which I think is key, is when you get hooked up with the wrong person.
Yeah.
Like I know people that have been hooked up with wrong money managers or something like that.
Or agents.
Well, wrong agents, certainly.
There are so many agents that I know of who look at you like a dollar figure. It's almost like that wolf in Red Riding Hood, right? Yeah. It's like, oh, I can list your house and we can get so much. They're not even asking why you're not.
That's not even close to the story of Red Riding Hood. It's not like
it's not about real estate.
Well, no, I know. You spent time in Austria as a child. Maybe that's the way they tell it there. No. You're right. People do. They look at people and they're thinking, yeah, I can make money off of this, instead of. And it's funny. Everybody that sat in that sort of chair, right? Because we don't always use this chair, but everybody that sat where you're sitting in our interview space, almost every one of them is, I'm passionate about helping people in some way, either the agent or the client, and sometimes it takes both ways.
Well, so I just did a panel, and at the end she said, what's the one piece of advice, right? And I said, you guys, it's not going to be the popular advice, but I said, and it was a room full of agents and brokers. And I said, it's okay if this industry or this profession is not for you. I think too much we get caught up in, back when it was super easy, the last 3 years have not been easy. Back when it was really, really easy for people, they get caught up in like, oh, it's easy and I'm going to make this money and I just got to be in here. But to be the best fiduciary for your client, you really need to be all in. And to be all in and actually have a good quality of life, you really, really should want to do this. Know your why and actually feel that you are best in this environment and in this industry. And I think too many agents, they're weeding out slowly, right? And which I think is good for the rest of us. But,
I'm of mixed opinion in a sense. But I hear what you're saying. There are people that should not be doing this, just as there are certain doctors that should just 100%. Not be doing this. I'm thinking of a lot of plastic surgeons out there, so you know who you are. But it is it's getting tougher, right? And I think that there are going to be changes with the buyer commission and all that, which is a whole other conversation. And now we're going to have agents that are really good at what they do. You have
the Lord.
Yeah, and so you have 8 people on your team. 6 of them are your own children, I think you said.
No.
They
will be soon.
They will be soon.
Give it like
so you have a 14-person
team.
14-person team coming.
Yeah.
But what do you do to make sure that they are as excellent as you are?
Well, they're more excellent in some ways than I am, but I'm an open book. The same way my mentor taught me, I'm an open book. I'm not scared of their success, trumping mine. I'm not scared of, them taking food off of my table. Like, we're all here to eat. There's enough food for all of us, no matter how scarcity driven the media is on all their rhetoric. But, to me, if they need me on a Zoom, it's not about need me on a Zoom meeting with their client or meeting with their client. It's about, hey, 2 heads are better than 1. Let's go in there and get it done. Because literally, even when I go to a meeting with one of my agents for their client, after that, I'm literally, in the back, I'm not even there unless they need me for something, right? So for me, it's like them leaning on my past success, my credibility, whatever, the same way I did with my mentor. I think that's critical. You can't just jump in here and be like, I want 100% of the commission. I know what I'm doing. I went to those 3 trainings and that's not what it is. Yeah. I've done over 500 transactions in probably the last 5 years. And I feel like I've learned something new on every single transaction. And because I'm part of a larger, firm, Real Estate Experts, we do a good job of collaborating, right? So when one person's telling a story about their client in whatever they went through, I'm listening and I'm literally like committing that to memory, even emotionally, so that I can then tell that story and help someone through the success or the whatever that they went through.
You just said something which is really key. I think you said, I'm listening to that even emotionally.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Because real estate is so emotional. It's so emotional. And like you were mentioning, when, someone's talking, I can get you the most amount of money, that's one level, right?
Yeah.
They're not tapping into the emotional intelligence piece of it. They're not tapping into like really understanding emotionally what that client is going through. You get so much further with them. You build that trust so much easier. But committing it to emotionally to memory for me means I'm not going to forget that story. I don't have the best memory. I have like mommy brain. So if while I'm hearing that story, I'm like being super empathetic to like really apply that to me as if it happened to me, then it's just a story I'm telling about something that happened in front of my client to help them build trust with me.
I have to go down the road of Nneka and I have had this conversation before in a different setting, which is, it's almost like you had an imposter syndrome, right? Originally. So being a Black woman in a not so Black area of California, Silicon Valley, and coming into a new industry, what was that journey like for you? And because I know part of it, but I think a lot of people will learn a lot from this story and this experience. And what would you have done differently, or would you have?
What was it like for me? I think it forced me to focus on really, really mastering my craft, really understanding, mirror and matching. I use that a lot with, being a sponge to everything Brett was doing. In the beginning, I remember coming to the brokerage and there was only 4 or 5 of us, maybe, I think it was 5 of us. And I was on his team, right? And I wanted to be in every room he was in. I wanted to be at every meeting he was at. And I didn't care if I was getting paid for it. And I say that to say, there were times where I'd be like, Brett, that next $1 million, because again, I'm starting in this business. I'm like, what does this even mean? I'm intimidated by talking to someone that can buy $1 million house, right? And excuse me, I'm asking him, I want to just be in that room. Whereas other agents would kind of be like, well, if I'm going to go, like what commission, what cut can I get? If I help you with it, what can I do? I didn't care about that. So being that I had huge imposter syndrome, there weren't a lot that looked like me at all, especially in this position. I had to figure out how to be confident enough sitting in front of 2 white people that have a lot more wealth than I have, that are going to then trust me with one of their biggest assets and not just see black and like whatever they thought that meant. So I dove into matching everything he did, copying everything he did. How did he sound? What was he saying? How was he responding to any of their, what was his rebuttal to every situation? So that worked in my favor. I don't think I would have changed that, but I don't know that I ever got rid completely of that imposter syndrome. It just takes a new shape. And so I worked through that in different ways, but just putting my head down and just focusing on being value to people is all I would focus on. And back then, even when this one was critical, even when I was in the face of someone, being racist, or like we had an appraiser and he actually got fined and in trouble and fired for appraising my client's property horribly. I was their black realtor. They were white actually, but he saw me there. And long story short, he got in trouble for that. And we all know that happens a lot. Sure. So for me, when those situations would happen, even in the face of blatant racism or whatever, it's not that I would ignore it. I wouldn't let that cloud what I was there to do. So often it's easy and we're entitled to be like, this shit sucks. And like, what the hell, sound the alarm. I think that's fair to do, but I think there's a way to do that without impacting yourself and your future success, your current success, and also impacting your client. So I feel like, to answer it most directly, like head down, we have a job to do here. And for me, because I was having multiple babies and like, I gotta do what I gotta do. I was just focused on that. And so I wouldn't let anything get in the way of that, even when I felt like it was right in front of me. For my agents, when I'm trying to, because I think 3 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4 are black. My biggest thing is, there's this thing called code switching. I'm from Africa. A lot of black people. I won't say all, but like a lot of black people, right? I moved to America, different places, but my first like long-term place was Scottsdale, Arizona, all white people. I learned very quickly how to be around all black people, how to be around all white people, right? So it's really hard for me, but I think I've always mastered code switching, but it was a matter of survival. I don't know that it was on a conscious level. And so now I can recognize when it's happening, and I don't think it's good or bad. I think it's necessary. But I think being self-aware of how you're coming across to the audience is critical no matter what color you are.
Right.
But unfortunately, when you're in an environment where I'm constantly the only black person in the room, oftentimes, they're either expecting a ton of me or they're expecting very little of me. So rising to the occasion at every turn is just my focus. So I'm just focused on that. And if they don't like me because of that, even if it comes from a very, very like sad place, I just keep going. That's the only option.
It's amazing. And I don't know, the whole code, the whole idea of code switching, and it's actually a great podcast also from NPR if you've listened to it or not. But it is something, and I think it's a factor that people ignore. I think a lot of people try to ignore it, and at least I think a lot of white agents try to ignore it because more so. Yeah.
But there's also a lot of bias and implicit bias in just picking up the phone and having somebody have an accent on the other end of the phone, or you go to a meeting with someone that you took and you have a preconceived notion of what they look like in your head, and then they show up and it's like, oh. Okay.
Oh, I get that all the time.
I was.
Well, how do you react or not react?
Earlier in my career, someone told me, "Don't put your picture on anything, Nneka. So I put my picture on everything.
Yeah.
Number one, when I'm on the phone, I sound like a white girl. Whatever. Like, I got made fun of that all my life. Oh well. I've always sounded like this. This is not me trying to we speak English in Africa too. We speak English and we speak Igbo where I'm from. So this is just who I am. But hearing people say that, or the whole growing up, oh, you speak so proper. Oh my God. And being surprised. What the F? But I think people are uncomfortable by it because I don't think I've mastered the art of how to like properly teach what I'm talking to you about, because the first time I talked to my agents about it, there's one agent in particular, she got really defensive. And it was more about her, but in the moment I was like, I'm not doing a good job explaining this because it sounds like I'm saying change who you are. Absolutely not.
Right.
It's not that. But at the same time, for me, at least, again, I'm not saying this is a popular opinion, but for me and my business and what I've experienced in the beginning, it was very important to me. And I understood you do what you have to do so that you can do what you want to do. This was a means to an end, and I'm nowhere close to the end, right? So for me, I knew that I had to present myself in front of a lot of the white people in my area in a way where they would take me seriously. It was truly who I was and all that, but I couldn't do some of those things that would cause them to bring up their biases that would come up. And that's me being strategic. That's not me being fake or phony.
Right.
We all put on a uniform. We all have to do what we have to do in that role. And I chose to own that and just, it didn't bother me, but for some people it would bother them. Well, people like who I am, and that's absolutely fine. But if you're telling me you can't eat until you sell something, so maybe you got to put on the uniform a little bit longer. That doesn't mean you're faking it. Maybe you got to put the uniform on that resonates with more people so you can sell more business. And then listen, when you sell enough business, you can not give a shit and you can do whatever and sound whoever, do it. But you can't tell me, oh my God, I'm so desperate for this, but then you're not willing to put on the uniform required.
I think what you just said resonates a lot, which is don't bitch and moan about something when I'm telling you how exactly to do it.
Yeah.
If you need to get to that place to get food on your table, pay your bills, pay your rent, whatever.
Yeah.
There is a bit of privilege that comes with being successful in whatever field you are to a point where then, okay, be your authentic self, say no to clients, refer them to someone 100%. Else. Or if you're not comfortable doing it, get the client and then refer them to someone. And just be like, I can't work with you. It's not a match, whatever.
But that's like big girl panties, right?
Yeah.
Like at what point, like you said, if you want to bitch and moan about it, if you're like, no, this is against who I am and all that, that is fair. Yeah. But this is what's required.
So what's really impressive with this, and I think this keeps coming up over and over and over again with the people that we talk to, is they talk about being their authentic self,
100%.
right? And so especially in social media, be your authentic self. You hear a lot about, and people are coaching to do that. You are you, right? And but what's really cool is you seem really conscious of the fact of how you're being you, if that makes sense.
100%.
Yeah. You mentioned that you're teaching this to your kids as well, right? So first of all, would you want them to go into real estate?
I want them to get their license, and I want them to have that be an option. I want them to do whatever they want to do. Truly. I will never push this on them.
I told both my kids, do whatever you want, but get your broker's license. Because you're going to be at a party and someone's going to say, oh, I'm thinking, get the referral fee.
Referral,
just get the referral fee. You don't have to do it. Just have your broker's license.
Totally.
I told them, I will pay for your classes. I will pay. All right. So I just hope they don't hold me to this. And, I think it's really key. And one of the things when you're talking about sitting across from people, so do you still get uncomfortable?
Yeah, I do. Honestly, I get uncomfortable. One of my favorite lender partners right now actually messaged me this morning, something like, if you're ever going out there, because we're all moms, me, her, and my sister, we're on a group chat. She's like, if you ever go out there and you're feeling like you're insecure about what you can or can't do or whatever, just remember that all the people that you think have their shit together don't.
That's true.
And then, but I said back to her, I laughed because I was like, this coming from a lender who has done like $1 billion, whatever, she sees all of their stuff, So sometimes it's like the realization that like, I don't have everything together. I own it and I'm fine with that. I'm on a journey and I'm nowhere close to arrived. But I feel like remembering that the person in front of me that I'm so intimidated by, and oftentimes for me, it's oftentimes like, I'll be honest, it's like $4 million and up clients for whatever reason. I just assume that they know 10 agents, that that they know everything about real estate, that they're looking at me like, girl, you look like you're 20. And I'm like, so I'm always finding myself, if you ever hear me in front of a new crowd, I sometimes, or in front of a new client, because I know that when I don't put it all together, I sometimes look like I'm homeless and 20 years old. I find myself finding a way in the conversation and bring up that I have multiple children, right? Or that I'm married, because I think sometimes they just think that I haven't sold any real estate or think that I'm super young. So I get really uncomfortable. And then on top of that, the black card, right? So I get very uncomfortable.
Spencer's going to ask you later what your skin cream is, because he has some bags under his eyes.
Look at this. Just look at me. I sent a picture. I'm going to tell what my girlfriend said.
My Lord.
I sent a picture of my girlfriend. She said, it looks like you were punched in both eyes today.
Listen.
Yeah.
It's not skin cream. It's called concealer.
It's concealer. I have concealer.
We'll get that.
I'm wearing that. One thing which I think is really interesting and that you're saying is, and this is something, a friend of mine did this to me, and I think about this over and over and over again. And I have a friend who's black, and I grew up in New York City, and I grew up on the Upper East Side. And so whenever we'd be going out, it was usually in my neighborhood. And there was one, and he's successful in business. And we went, one time he invited me someplace, and we went to this restaurant. I was the only white person there. And he
How'd you feel?
Yes,
he said to me, how do you feel right now? And he didn't take me there on purpose. It's just like, oh, I want you to come to this restaurant. And then I said, I feel really uncomfortable. He goes, now you know how I feel every day.
Single hour of every day.
And he has never, and so what I realized there though, because he never comes across as someone who feels uncomfortable. So I realized
struggle.
What he has to do to do that. So there is this thing, that you're lucky. And so when you're talking about, people thinking, who knows, what image they have of you before you go in.
I love that example, because the amount, just putting myself in your story, like I was mentioning earlier, like emotionally going into that story, right? I'm thinking of the times where I've been in a restaurant and, it's very snooty, high class, whatever, all white people, right? And getting up to go to the restroom, and maybe I take my purse or something, and in my mind, I'm thinking, well, what if they think I'm going to leave? I better tell someone. I better tell. It's the fact that I have to go through that mental gymnastics in every situation, and there's no option to not. So, I struggle. My husband and I have talked about this many times, because he comes off, like his presence comes off more chill and relaxed and like, whatever. He's also light skinned. But the funny thing is, he looks like he's half black, half white. He's full black, but like he's very, very light skinned. So he had his own struggles, which I cannot relate to, and we've learned through marriage. Like, because I would look at him and think like, oh, you had it easier. And he's sitting there. He was a quarterback at like his Air Force Academy for football, and normally anyway, I won't go into that one. But he had to deal with a lot of the black players, a lot of the black people thinking you're not black enough, and I was too black, right? So I love that example, because that's what we talked about when you had me film that video for right. It's the fact that in every situation, and I think it's my superpower, because I can be very self-aware even in the moment, and like make sure that what I want to come across is coming across, and really tailor it to the audience in a sense. But the truth is, I'm constantly thinking of, how are they perceiving me? What are they thinking? Should I do this? Should I do that? And I have a lot of white friends, and they don't have to do that in 99% of scenarios. And even in an environment where I don't feel threatened by the other person, I'm just always having that. And the funny thing is, this is not just in front of a white audience. I'm that white black girl, right? Or black white, or whatever you want to call it, in front of my black counterparts, in front of black agents, other black agents, especially because I do a lot in the East Bay. There's a lot more black agents there than in the South Bay. And I'm constantly, oh, they're going to think I'm too snooty. Oh, I'm acting like that white girl. And it's like, at a certain point, I am who I am, right? But it takes me having the confidence in the business that I have done, and knowing like, okay, I know what the hell I'm doing, but in the beginning I didn't know what I was doing. So it was harder, but I think now it's still hard, and the bar just moves. So right before, like I told you, I was begging Brett, let me be in the room with your $1 million client. Now it might be like, now I'm really nervous with that $3 or $4 million client, right? So
I think there's so many different avenues that we could explore with this. But there's not enough hours in a day, and not enough film on tape. But Nneka, where do you want to build Onyx Wealth Realty to, or what do you want to accomplish? No time frame, just what do you see for it? Vision.
That's a good question. I struggle with this one, and I don't think I've told you this before. I don't necessarily want to be like 50 agents or 100 agents. It's just, I don't think that's me. And I've known that for a while, but I think I'm a lot more vocal about that. But, and I think part of that is just, I want to attract the right type of agents that are not in this industry thinking it's easy. Like, I want the type of agents that have grit and tenacity and like really are committed to doing right by their clients, all that. Where do I see it going? I feel like there's so many other aspects of real estate I'd love to tap into and kind of be that like entrepreneurial kind of umbrella head, if that makes sense. I really want to get into staging. Yeah. Not that I have any design aspect.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
At all.
We need to
I already trust you immediately.
Listen to me, but listen, you see this? This is my stylist. I did none of this. I'm telling you, I did none of this. When it comes to design, I'm not the girl, but my sister is an event planner and she just did the wedding I was just in actually. And she has a design eye. So anyway, my point is, I feel like Onyx Wealth Realty is just the beginning of like ancillary services.
Yes, I love this.
Yes, let's talk.
Let's talk, and then we'll circle back.
First time I've said anything about that.
You sent it out in the universe.
I just sent it out. Now it has happened. Okay.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah, and right after, I'm gonna go run a marathon right now.
You said it.
I said it. Oh, I am not. I'm so taking that back. I'm so taking that back.
It's gone. It doesn't matter. Nneka, I love it. Thank you so much for being on Own It, and you clearly do own it. No matter what you do, you will own it to the nth degree. So I love it. I appreciate it. Yes, for sure.
I appreciate it.
We will wrap this up and come back on another episode.
Where do we reach?
Where do we reach Nneka?
Yes.
Nneka, all your Instas, what are they?
So it's at Homes by Nneka. Nneka is with 2 N's and an EKA.
So here's a little tidbit. We were talking to Glenda Baker on a prior episode.
I love her. I just met her.
She's amazing. Great. On a prior podcast. So she's teaching Google how to properly spell Glenda with 2 N's. So you should figure out how to teach Google how to spell Nneka. It is a thing.
Oh, I'm doing it.
We'll talk later.
Oh, we're doing it.
Right. Now I now have the courage to be my authentic self. So I'm going back to my British roots. Oi. There we are.
Very well, Spencer. Thank you. Thank you for being on another
Thank you.
podcast,
I appreciate it.
Another Own It, and we'll see you next time on
Thank you, Nneka.
another episode. Thank you all.
Bye.